Well, let's put it this way. It's been about a year since we touched base with this subject matter. And we're getting another closure to this particular case. Now, as an add on to this story, just understand I'm not a lawyer. I don't, I don't work for any law firm or work for any courtroom, enforcement agency, or anything to that nature. I'm just giving my 2 cents to this story, which I have been doing for quite some time. For those of you who want a quick refresher, uh, for several years now, Ron Jeremy was accused of sexual assault by multiple people, multiple women. Uh, I think over 32, maybe more on there to refresh my memory on that. But basically, there was supposed to be a case to this nature, a criminal case. It never happened due to the fact that Ron Jeremy was deemed incompetent to stand trial due to a aggressive dementia situation he's going through, which is today he is now living somewhere where basically he's not able to live in a hostel or anything like that. That he's back home, living, I guess, in bed, unable to interact with people. His mind is pretty much gone at this point. And to the situation that basically no one got their day in court. And I'm going to say both sides. You got to remember one thing: it's innocent until proven guilty. Always remember that, innocent until proven guilty. To that nature, we never got to that point. No matter what you think of Ron Jeremy to that situation. I met Ron, oh God, going back to the 1980s. I was back in my early days in broadcasting on public access television. He was being interviewed on there. Got a quick little talk with him for just a moment on there. Not too long. He wouldn't remember me this long, even now with the dementia. But seemed to be a nice guy when I met him. And that's the mixture you hear from some people. Some people in the industry will say, "Oh yeah, he's the nicest guy. Would take his shirt off his back, help you." Or other people say, "Oh God, the guy's like a sex pervert." It depends who you talk to. It's people have different opinions. My opinion, it's basically to the case. Like I said, nobody got their day in court, and that's plain and simple. Do I believe that his accusation? There's a lot of questions to it, and we never got to see this in a courtroom situation. But there's one part of this that, of course, there's always going to be civil lawsuits. Always civil lawsuits to the situation, which ends up either a major payout or a settlement to the situation on there. But before we start, don't forget to share this video, comment, hit the like, and hopefully today's the day I earn your subscription. Thank you for you who have supported us here on CutiCast TV, Man with a Show, on both YouTube and on Rumble. If you notice, we've taken a bit longer to come back fully. We are expecting new equipment as we got new financing to our channel here. So basically, I just saw it the other day. They sent me pictures of it. New computers on the way. We've got new mics, speaker systems, and hopefully we'll have a tech come in the next couple of weeks, and we'll get us back up in shape again. Thank you again for those who have supported us, past, present, and future. So from XBiz, Ron Jeremy's accuser reached settlement with Rainbow Bar and Grill. The Rainbow Bar and Grill has reached a confidential settlement with a group of women who filed negligent lawsuits against the Sunset Strip restaurant over alleged sexual assaults committed by Ron Jeremy, according to Rolling Stone. Two women identified as Jane Does 1 and 2 alleged that Jeremy assaulted them on the premise of the establishment in March of 2017. At least 7 other women joined them in suing Rainbow Bar and Grill over the alleged assaults. This has been a really long road for my clients, said Aaron Ulster, a lawyer representing the two of the alleged victims who testified before the grand jury regarding the incidents in 2016 and 2019. This is pretty much as close to closure as we're going to get, he told Rolling Stone. Austin's clients alleged that Jeremy cornered them and attacked them and grabbed their breasts and pinching their nipples without their consent, and the staff at the Rainbow Bar Grill knew about his predatory behavior and either enabled it or looked the other way. Hopefully, Rainbow has learned their lesson and won't allow this to happen ever again, said Olstein, who was prevented from sharing the total amount of the settlements, though he called them a group effort. Jeremy-born Ron Jeremy Hyatt was indicted in August of 2021 on 34 counts of sexual assault involving 21 victims, some who were minors at the time, ranging from ages 15 to 51. Now 72, Jeremy was found incompetent to stand trial in January 2023 and subsequently committed to a state-run mental facility in California. However, a civil case against Rainbow Bar and Grill, which is owned by a company called Rockin' Horse, was allowed to proceed. On Tuesday, there was a hearing in Santa Monica to consolidate all of the cases hearing toward trial, but there will be no further trials now that Rockin' Horse has struck settlements with Jeremy's alleged victims. The company was reported covered by the insurance in the event of such incidences. These cases all went to mediation and they all have been settled, attorney Michael Moss told a Los Angeles County judge. But it will take a little time for everyone to finalize the paperwork and send the settlement checks. Austin's two clients alleged that the Rainbow Bar and Grill employees would give permission and would knowingly allow Ron Jeremy to use the employee's restroom to sexually assault female patrons. The women claim to have suffered great physical pain and mental suffering because of those events. Many others have described the same or similar criminal behavior from Jeremy. Osteen chalked up the victory to the number of victims who've bravely come forward. I don't think Rockin' Horse had any argument to make that they didn't know what was going on at their establishment. He told Rolling Stone, when there were dozens of victims with the same perpetrator under the same circumstances, it's pretty clear what was happening. Now, understand this from both sides on here. Like I said, there's some people who say that Ron is a complete pervert, sexual deviant to that nature, and we've heard some in fact, some of his co-fellow stars have said this in the past. If he was doing this hit to the situation, burn in hell to the situation, on to that. The other side of this, I understand this, and this is from the nightclub and bar and grill business, and knowing people that have run this kind of business. You're going to get situations like this all the time. You got to remember, alcohol and men and women in the same room, same time, will cause any type of situations. Who's at fault? It's very hard to say when it comes down to people being drunk to the end. You may say to yourself, man, how would you know that these ladies were drunk to the situation? I don't know. I really don't know. That's the problem. And that's the questions a lot of people should ask. But for the bar and grill, this is why they have this type of insurance. They're basically, when they get accused of these things, they just settled. They're not admitting to the situations, which that's what it's sounding like. They're just settling out, giving the paycheck, and that's it. End of story. That's how it is. Because, you could go down to many different stories, in the total history in the last maybe 40, 50 years of things that happen in bars, things that happen in nightclubs to the situation. You have people who, get going in some of these clubs. Some of it is, to the point where that it's consensual, and sometimes it's not consensual, but it's a fine line to the point. And it's always the guy that gets blamed for it. 9 out of 10 times, it's the guy. I mean, there is a case which was just found, it's still going on somewhat, of a college student who was accused of rape, and the university kicked him out and all this situation. then evidence came forward from the surveillance that basically the girl dragged him back to her dorm room and everything like that. So it was more consensual. And the thing about it is basically he was acquitted, but the college did not want to go forward on that. They just literally left him saying like, you don't belong here anymore to that situation. So he sued the college to that point. And I don't think it has resolved, or it may have resolved. But the thing is that this is what happens, in this kind of a business. Now, the other half is, and I still haven't gotten an answer to this. Was the underage person at this bar when they were talking about the underage, the 15-year-old? Because that's another situation. Not saying that, oh yeah, she that's her fault situation. Well, the thing about it is, she's a 15-year-old. How'd she get into the bar? Number one, which in a way you could say that's the bar's fault if they didn't properly ID, or did she have a fake ID? We don't know. See, that's the thing. There was no proper investigation. Number one. Number two, because everything was rushed, and most people don't realize this case was rushed, because at that time, and this is why Ron Jeremy was found incompetent, because of his dementia. His dementia was kicking in. We've shown a couple of the videos here. We've shown you some of the situations where, and this is back before it got really bad, before the case really got started, and you could see that he was missing a lot of cards in his hand. I mean, you could see that the dementia was just starting to kick in on him. Now that we know it's dementia, because back then you thought, my God, this guy's batshit crazy.
I'm Batman.
And in any case like this, you always have some that it may have happened to that point, and understand that. And then there are those who are taking advantage of the situation. Now, we don't know if all these women are taking advantage. We don't know if all part, some, we don't know that situation. The case never happened. That's why it's innocent until proven guilty in this country. But the way things have been going online to the situation, people are deemed guilty before they're done innocent, and they're still continuing to be found guilty by people on the street and jobs and places where they go, even if they're found innocent. You can ask Kyle Rittenhouse to that situation. You can ask many other people to that point, that basically they were accused of situations. The jury found them innocent, and basically, there are people out there that will hark that, like the Rittenhouse case. They'll say, oh, yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse killed the three minority black men. I said, that's not true. That's not true at all. I mean, we're having it happen now with the illegal immigration situation. The guy in El Salvador, they say like, oh yeah, he was, he was not supposed, he was innocent, this and that, like that, but he had 2 deportation notices. And we just found out recently that he's a wife abuser, a wife beater. Paperwork is out there to that nature. And, this is the silliness that to the point on some of this stuff on here. And like I said, this is why you have places like the Rainbow Bar and Grill and many others that take insurance for this reasoning, because basically you're gonna have a situation where you get accused of something, and you can't really defend yourself, because the evidence that unless you have cameras, unless you have video camera, which we did not see, there were no cameras in that area. There were no footage to that nature. All we have is word of mouth. And the court always sides with women, that whole situation. Believe all women. No, it's not to believe all women. It's innocent until proven guilty. Let's prove them. For those out there that have lied in the past, you have hurt basically the women that are actually have had sexual assault happen to them, that are afraid to come forward because of this situation. We can go back all the way back years and years 1980s and stuff like that. Like Tawana Brawley, a perfect example to that situation because, with the whole Al Sharpton situation. If you're not familiar with that, this is a girl that accused a couple of white men that she was raped on there and smeared with feces and stuff like that. And it turned ugly in New York City. I was here. It was ugly. It was not a good thing. And then when you find out in the end, it was all lies. It was a total fabrication because the daughter didn't want to get caught with the boyfriend, that she was seeing a boy that she was not supposed to see. To that point. But like I said, whether you believe Ron or you believe the women, we're never going to know. And that's a shame. You should both sides deserve their day in court. Whether it's Ron, whether it's the women, they deserve their day in court. But it's not going to happen, unfortunately. There are rules against this. Basically, if you're not competent to stand trial, it's that's one of your rights. You have to be able to face your accuser. And the thing about it is, his mind is gone, to that point. So this is probably one of the last videos we'll have on this. We're also still monitoring, before you guys ask, we are still monitoring the Mercedes Carrera. There was a hearing just the past week before Easter. We're still trying to get information on that. From my understanding, this is probably going to go into May. We're going into year 6 and 6, 7. Who knows how long? When are we going to get to the point where these people get released? Her and her husband. I've had people say in the comments line, this is a tragedy. Whether they're guilty or innocent, they're not getting their day in court. See, this is how it is. You don't get your day in court, but yet you have a state and city municipality that is holding you behind bars because they don't like your profession. They don't like, where you work. And this is another porn star. They think that, all porn stars are evil, miscreants, criminals, sex traffickers, and all that. But understand, there's some good parts of the business and there's some bad parts of the system of the business. And it's the same thing with Hollywood. The same thing with the record business. Same thing with broadcasting. You have your good and you have your bad. And, this is things that happen. But for someone to be accused of something and held in court in jail for as long as this has been happening, lawsuits got to be thrown down. I understand that some lawyers will tell you that, we have to wait until this thing goes through. But at this point, even if she's found guilt, her husband found guilty, and they said, get 5 years in jail. Okay, let's say it's 5 years in jail. It's time served. She's already served the time already. So let's get on and get her out to this point. Because this is a constitutional nightmare. And this is happening on many other cases also to that point. But yeah, once again, comment. Let me know your thoughts about this. Let me know, Ron Jeremy. Let me truly know what you thought. Do you believe Ron? Do you not believe Ron? Do you believe the women? Do you not believe the women? You got to, like I said before, innocent until proven guilty. Got to hear both sides to the point. This is our judicial system. This is what, our founding fathers put into play in this country. That basically that we get a fair trial here. So comment, share, like, and hopefully today's the day I've earned your subscription. For all the thousands and thousands of videos that you could have taken on here, you've chosen mine. So once again, thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye now.